Here are some of the headlines we are featuring today from your favorite news outlets at offthepress.com. The corporate media effectively imposed a blackout on coverage of the impeachment inquiry into corruption by President Biden and his family, a stark contrast to the wall-to-wall coverage the media gave to the impeachments of former President Trump. GOP donors desperate for a 2024 alternative to Trump are converging on Virginia in an effort to draft popular Governor Glenn Youngkin to make a bid for the White House. It's funny how things come full circle. Lawyers for the Delaware computer repair shop that serviced Hunter Biden's infamous laptop have subpoenaed the FBI to return the laptop to the shop's owner, who is engaged in a defamation lawsuit against CNN, Politico, and Biden. And it turns out Melania Trump is a pretty fair dealmaker in her own right. The former First Lady quietly renegotiated her prenup with Donald Trump as her husband is fighting off court challenges while running for a second term. For stories like these and more updates all day long from your favorite news outlets, go to offthepress.com.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Stinchfield. We have a lot to go through tonight. First and foremost, Senator Dianne Feinstein of California passed away at the age of 90. She was the longest-serving female senator there in that chamber, and she will be missed. Certainly, she was an icon. I mean, she won't be missed as far as the direction the country's headed. But now that she's gone, I'm not going to spend my time bashing Dianne Feinstein, and quite frankly, as far as leftist senators go, for a while she wasn't so bad. There are people in government that I literally despise. Dianne Feinstein wasn't one of them. I think when she was younger, she was a traditional liberal. In many ways, much like Bernie Sanders, true to what she believed in. She really did believe in the things she was pushing. Later in life, I think the Democrats started to abuse her age and used her as a vessel to push all kinds of nonsense, like going after Brett Kavanaugh, those kinds of things. So with her gone, the Democrats are now either in a bind or maybe this was a gift from God. I mean, because the Democrats have a lot of problems. First and foremost, the one in the White House. How do you deal with that? Now Governor Gavin Newsom has to figure out who he's going to appoint as the next senator from California. So, you know, waiting in the wings, of course, are Katie Porter. I call her Mrs. Doubtfire. That's who she looks like. Barbara Lee and Adam Schiff, pencil neck Schiff. They're all running for this seat. Now, none of them are going to be appointed to this. Here's why. Gavin Newsom said that he's only going to appoint an interim placeholder. So these three can battle it out. She does look like Mrs. Doubtfire, doesn't she, Katie Porter, all the way on the right? I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. So here's what Gavin Newsom did indicate he would do. This is before Dianne Feinstein died, but this is the governor of California.
But you're going to abide by, it would be essentially a caretaker, an African-American woman.
We hope we never have to make this decision, but I abide by what I've said very publicly on a consistent basis, yes.
So he's going to appoint an African-American woman. Now, you heard Chuck Todd there say as a placeholder, as a caretaker. That's until the election. So Barbara Lee is the only black woman in the race. Clearly, he can't appoint her because he's not going to appoint from those running. So what does Gavin Newsom do here? And first off, you know, the identity politics of this. If you were a black woman, do you really want to be appointed to the United States Senate simply because you're a black woman? Come on. This is where the Democrats are. It's so backwards in thinking, and in many respects, it's racist. So what will Gavin Newsom do? Well, quietly, I promise you, amongst Democrat leadership, amongst the forces at the very, very top, the Obamas, the Soroses, I'm sure the Clintons are in on these conversations, I can't promise you they would consider appointing Kamala Harris as the next senator from California. What would that do? That would mean Kamala Harris would have to vacate her vice presidential seat. Now, I don't think her ego would ever allow her to do that. But if the party elites came calling and made her an offer she just can't refuse, maybe she'd have to. And then what would happen? Well, after she's appointed to the Senate, well, maybe Joe Biden then appoints Gavin Newsom as his vice president. And then lo and behold, a couple months later, Joe Biden steps down for health reasons and Gavin Newsom is your next president. Here's the reality. Gavin Newsom is a formidable foe. They can't win, the Democrats right now, against any candidate, much less President Trump. President Trump is dominating and setting himself up for a red wave. A fight against Gavin Newsom in that general election would be a much different scenario. I'm here to tell you, I despise the man. I don't trust the man. He is a wolf. He is devious. He is swarmy. He is slimy. He is all of those things. But he's also cool as a cucumber, cool as the flip side of a pillow. Watch him being questioned by conservative media after the GOP debate.
Why should parents not know if their kids are transitioning at school?
It's a hell of a thing. You're talking about 1% of the population. Climate change that's impacted 100% of the population wasn't even brought up. And we're talking about trans issues. 1% of the population in the United States. These kids just want to live. These kids just want to live. And we're having a debate about trans issues at the Reagan Library. It's to be ashamed.
At the Reagan Library, as if he has any right to comment about the Reagan Library. But no matter what you say about his lies and him flipping the script, who brought this trans issue to the forefront of America? The Democrats did. He just flips the script there and then drops his mic and walks out. This is what he does. He's very good at that. And that's dangerous to Republicans. Look at him talk about the border when he was on with Sean Hannity.
Is this border secure?
I believe Ronald Reagan was right in 1986 when he supported comprehensive immigration.
Yeah, well, he also said it was the worst decision he ever made.
Yeah, but I believe that he did the right thing for the right reasons. I think the Republican Party is complicit in this as well. You cannot do things. I mean, it's just factual.
The border was secure under Donald Trump.
It's wildly overstated, but I get your fundamental point. Clearly, the challenges are more acute today. And by the way, I don't need to be educated on this. I have the largest land port in the Western Hemisphere here in the state of California.
Folks, I'm going to tell you, this man scares me to death, and I don't scare easy. This man is frightening because he will have the media eating out of his hands. He will have the uninformed independents eating out of his hands. And it's not going to matter us bringing up what a hellhole California is. He's destroyed California. It's not going to matter. Answers like that will have him riding sky high. Compare that to Kamala Harris being asked about the border. This is why this wild scheme that's being discussed quietly by Democrats about moving Kamala into the Senate seat and moving Gavin Newsom in to ultimately be president. This is why. Listen to her response. Compare that to Gavin's.
First, the acute factors, the catastrophes that are causing people to leave right now. The hurricanes, the pandemic, the drought, and extreme food insecurity.
Do you see what I'm saying? She's a disaster. She has to go. She cannot be the heir apparent for Democrats, okay? Which then brings us, of course, to Joe Biden, who's the ultimate disaster. The guy can't put one foot in front of the other. He can't put one word in front of the other. He is a dementia patient. He belongs in the White House home for the elderly, just not at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So all of this now leads us to the impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden because he's such a disaster, a corrupt disaster at that. We talked a lot with my buddy Kash Patel last night about how disappointed we were with Republicans and how they ran that committee hearing. First off, they needed to come out strong, fast, and furious with new information. They buried the lead yesterday. The only new piece of evidence I heard yesterday came from Congressman Clay Higgins, the former sheriff, talking about political figure number one. Political figure number one. Lo and behold, who could that be? Joe Biden, named in a search warrant for a Democratic strategies group, Blue Star Strategies. And the DOJ says you have to take this out of your search warrant. That's a cover-up, folks. Why don't you lead with that? Here's Clay Higgins.
Political figure one is President Biden, is Joe Biden. Leslie Wolf, as a priority, someone needs to redraft Attachment B. There should be nothing about political figure one in here. This is a response to an email delivered by Joshua Wilson, FBI agent, that said, please see the attached draft for a Blue Star search warrant.
You want to run an impeachment inquiry? Here's how you do it. Because you know it's not going to lead to him being convicted in the Senate. It's not happening. So what you're running is theater for the American people to put the Biden corruption on display. Remember that, members of Congress. What you needed to do, what was his name? Joshua Wilson. Subpoena FBI agent Joshua Wilson as witness number one and have Clay Higgins right off the top offer that up and now question Joshua Higgins about why he had to take that out of his search warrant. That's how you start it. Take Hunter Biden voicemails. Produce them. Make clips that guys like me and others can run on social media. Easily package it for the American people to understand. Instead, they rehashed everything. They needed witnesses that matter. Here's another piece of news that is coming out now. That House Republicans are now tying Joe Biden to $24 million from Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Russia, China, Romania. All great investigating by James Comer and Jim Jordan. Good guys. Great investigating. Why wasn't that front and center yesterday? Heck, call in some of these Ukrainians. You have now, this is James Comer saying he's going to subpoena the Bidens. Wouldn't it have been great to have on day one Hunter Biden taking the Fifth Amendment? That would have made a splash. James Comer.
One of those steps is gaining insight into where the Biden's foreign money ended up, for what purposes. Therefore, today, I will subpoena the bank records of Hunter Biden, James Biden, and their affiliated companies.
Well, that's the bank records. When are we going to subpoena them? All of them. You know who I would like to subpoena? This would have been great. Right off the bat. Not witnesses that should have been the last witnesses you call, constitutional attorneys and forensic accountants. You don't need to prove anything to anybody, okay, about why you're running the impeachment inquiry. You need to prove why he needs to be impeached. So here's what I would have done. I would have subpoenaed Frank Biden and say, have you ever called Joe the big guy? Well, now apparently there's 6 times Joe Biden has been called the big guy by 6 different people, including Hunter, Frank, and Mykola Zlochevsky, however you say that guy's name. He was the founder of Burisma. He was calling Joe Biden the big guy. Wouldn't that be great? 10% for the big guy. Hey, Frank, who's the big guy? You could get Tony Bobolinsky to tell you that. They didn't call him either. Folks, I'm telling you, we have to get back to the business of easily, succinctly, and very forcefully laying this out for the American people. And I think they missed the boat yesterday. Well, joining me now is someone who was there for all of this, someone who fights like most people don't in Congress. Is a good friend of this program, Congressman from Arizona, Andy Biggs. Congressman Biggs, it's great to have you on the program.
Good to be with you, Grant.
So I hate to disparage what you guys did yesterday, but Kash Patel and I were through the roof. We just didn't think it was, look, it's the first day and it didn't go out with a bang. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez stole the show.
Well, I'm not going to say it was our finest hour, but I will say this. We have a story to tell, and we sometimes, I don't disagree, sometimes we buried the lead, and sometimes we didn't get our story in a beautiful narrative form. And we have to do better than that, because what you saw yesterday was what the Democrats did was appeal to emotion, raw emotion. You had a member of the Democrats say, "Oh, and she went crazy." You know, she was apoplectic, but she was talking about Joe Biden's just a loving father. I wish my parents loved me half as much as Joe loves Hunter. That kind of emotion actually steals the show, and we were trying to be very factual and trying to drive it with facts. I think we all learned a lesson. Yeah.
What if, do you remember the Democrats when they had their first impeachment hearings on President Trump? I think they hired an ABC producer to help them. I actually believe we should be doing the same thing. Heck, I'd do it for free for you. I could produce a show, Congressman, but you should go out there and hire a producer to put on WrestleMania 4, where you just wow the American people.
I'm not going to disagree with you that we have got to wow the people because, one thing that I remembered when we were in the minority, and we typically won these types of hearings because we appealed to emotion, we just banged and powed. And the way to beat those guys back is for us to bang and pow and just ignore them because they're going to try to distract. And we've got to be straightforward with the lead. And we have to remember it is a production. We're all convinced. We've seen the evidence. We know what it is. We've got to make sure that we deliver it in a storyboard type of situation where people can see it, where they say, oh, yeah, Joe Biden's a grifter. Oh, yeah, Hunter Biden's a grifter. And the other thing I will tell you, Grant, that makes it very difficult, which is different from the Democrats on their impeachments, they were taking one specific act and trying to turn that into an impeachable offense. For us, the difficulty is this guy is so corrupt that you can't go anywhere in the world and name a country almost where he and his family were not getting bennies in exchange for selling access and influence. So we've got to narrow our scope down perhaps just a bit and tell it more compellingly. No doubt about it. You're right on that.
Well, look, I think the Bidens made it. They did it on purpose. They got 20 shell companies and all of these associates. It's all just designed to confuse and all of those things. But now we have information. $24 million, the list of countries: Romania, Kazakhstan, Russia, China. I mean, to me, it seems like the evidence is overwhelming against this guy. Does anything surprise you anymore, Congressman? Have you seen any evidence that you were surprised by, or is this all just the norm now?
This is all the norm now. And what I'd tell you, Grant, too, is, and this is the problem. We've been trying to narrow it. There are Mideastern countries where Hunter got $1 million for selling access, and it just flows. There's another situation where multiple business partners were indicted, but Hunter was protected from any kind of indictment. So it just piles on and piles on and piles on, and it's quite frankly, it's trying to keep all the categories straight. But nothing surprises me anymore from the Biden crime family. Well,
I certainly appreciate your persistence on that, and of course your fiscal conservatism as well, Congressman. I want to ask you about the budget. Speaker McCarthy just came out moments before this show, and he said this. I'm going to play the clip for you and then get your response.
Are you open to a clean continuing resolution for a couple of weeks? Is that what you're headed now?
I think if we had a clean one without Ukraine on it, we could probably be able to move that through. I think if the Senate puts Ukraine on there and focuses Ukraine over America, I think that could cause real problems.
Congressman, I think what's so frustrating is that's the same answer I knew 4 weeks ago. I knew that.
Yeah, you know what, Grant? That's the same answer I could have told you, 6 months ago. The frustrating thing for me is, as I watch this, is, it's not that we could have done something. Even though we could have, we would have, and should have. It's that here we sit again, and we're resorting to the same old tactics. So they say, okay, we're going to do a short-term continuing resolution. For people who don't know what that is, that means you keep spending at the level you're at, and you keep all the crappy policies in, people flooding across the border, bad energy policies, paying for grant programs for people all over the world to do, drag shows all over the world, that type of stuff. The problem is, even if you do what they want to do, which is a 2-week or 3-week or who knows what their CRs are, you end up back at the same place where now you still haven't done all the bills that you're supposed to do. Let me give you an example. They put out a calendar today. Then the same time they're talking about a 2-week continuing resolution, that you don't even get to all the bills until the first week in November. Now, Grant, does that tell you that they're serious about getting this stuff done? Why we should have been in there all day today doing another bill or two. Tomorrow, Sunday. Last night we passed out funding for military and CBP workers. Demand that the Senate pass those bills so we can get funding for those people. Why? I just find it not serious. Their proposals.
My last question, and maybe this is oversimplifying, but early on when we knew this date was coming, why couldn't you pass through the most conservative, fiscally responsible bills? Everybody you think would get behind them, even if you know the Senate's not going to pass them. But throw it to the Senate, and now it's on them. They're controlled by the Democrats. No one can argue about this, that you've done your job and you've pushed it through, yet we waited and waited. Give the Senate something, right?
Yeah, no, Grant, September 30th comes every year. The end of the fiscal year comes every year. The statute is just as valid every year. You have to get those bills done. These bills should have been over to the Senate in June. And then the Senate messes around and we get in the fight, but you would have had it done. But this hasn't happened. That hasn't happened, Grant, in 25 years. 130 CRs in 25 years. And that gets you your $33 trillion in national debt.
That's unbelievable, really. When you put it that way and those numbers, it's amazing. Congressman Biggs, real quick, because we're totally way over and out of time, but are you guys working tomorrow and Sunday? Is there plans to come in and work on this stuff?
I'm told we might. I'm here ready to go. I was here last weekend working. Me and several of my colleagues stayed and worked, and they sent everybody else home. I'm here. I'll be here all weekend.
Congressman Andy Biggs, you know you're one of my favorites. I appreciate you coming on the program today. Always straight shooter with me. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Grant. Take care, man.
Absolutely. Good luck through all of this. Stay strong. All right, folks. Hey, do me a favor. Protect yourself with gold. This is the reason why. You hear that? What do you say? 135 CRs in 25 years, folks. Come on. That's craziness. This is why you need to be putting some of your money into gold. Lord knows what's going to happen with the stock market, okay, when this stuff happens. This is a portfolio protection move. My friends at Birch Gold can help you with it, okay? Birch Gold is the place to go. Text America to the number 989898. That's America to the number 989898. Don't wait. I'm telling you, the clock is ticking now on getting invested in gold. Text America to the number 989898. Pay my friends at Birch Gold a visit. All right, the Biden administration celebrates cutting oil and gas production. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you don't live in California. Gas is now pushing $7 a gallon. Anywhere else around the country, it is rising. Someplace $5, $4. Either way, it's a lot right now. Why is it a lot? Because supply has totally diminished. Our friends over at Climate Depot discovered why supply has diminished. Biden's energy plan. Drill anywhere but the USA. Climate Depot's headline reads, Interior Secretary Deb Haaland brags about the smallest number of oil and gas lease sales in history. Yes, that's right. Bragged about it. How do we know that? Well, Climate Depot found an Interior Department memo celebrating the fewest oil and gas lease sales in history. It reads, the proposed final program includes a maximum of 3 potential oil and gas lease sales, the fewest oil and gas lease sales in history. The reduction of the next national OCS program to a maximum of 3 potential lease sales will bring the federal offshore oil and gas program in line with the Biden-Harris administration's goal of net zero emissions by 2050. Yeah, because no one will be able to afford $20 a gallon gas. Flashback now to Interior Secretary Deb Haaland basically promising to do just this.
Do you think it is better for our country to get oil and gas from federal lands in this country with our environmental standards, or is it better to get it from places like Venezuela, Russia, Middle East, and other places with vastly inferior environmental standards? Where would you prefer that oil and gas come from?
Senator, what I can say is that President Biden is dedicated and committed to making sure that we have an energy independent nation.
It's unbelievable, really. You know, you can look at these people and tell exactly what they're going to say. You know, I could spot a liberal a mile away. I was going to write a book called Judge a Book by Its Cover, because you can. Just put up the picture of Deb Haaland there really quickly, okay, if we can. I don't know if the crew can back that up and put her up. Tell me that doesn't look like a liberal. Please. That absolutely does. She's a liberal, okay? And it doesn't take much to spot one. You put them on display in the United States Congress, it's easy to spot them. They want to wage war on oil and gas. They want fossil fuels out of business, and they want all of you broke, so you're relying on government. Well, joining me now is Climate Depot publisher and former senior staff at the United States Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, the guy responsible for finding that memo, them bragging about all this. Our friend Mark Morano is back. Mark, welcome to the program. You don't look like a liberal, my friend.
Thank you, Grant. I want to say the American Energy Alliance tipped me off to this. They're on top of this. And it's a pretty remarkable story to have our Interior Secretary bragging in a time of, once again, record gas prices, once again, record inflation, once again, skyrocketing energy, that this is a good thing because the planet is smiling, Grant.
All right, let me play a clip from you from Gavin Newsom. This is after the debates. Gavin Newsom is talking about how we've achieved energy independence. This is cut 5, guys. Let me run this for you, and then maybe you can refute his comments here.
We're more energy independent today under Biden. Pence doesn't know that. Your audience doesn't know that. More domestic oil production than any time in history. We're on pace this year. That's a fact. Right. You guys keep making that up.
No, we don't make it up.
You're making it up.
We're energy independent, and now we're not.
We are energy independent.
No, we're not.
Net energy exporters.
Mark, I wish the people could have seen your face as you're watching him say those things. What is your response to Gavin Newsom?
Well, first of all, the actually oil and gas industry responded, refuting him. What he's doing is basically these are some of the Trump policies carried over that were collapsed when we had COVID. And a lot of this is just still the old leasing of oil and gas and some of this production. But to say that we still have the net energy export, it depends on what technical definition he's looking at, because fossil fuels have been not only restricted in terms of real time, in terms of development by the Biden administration, but more importantly, and this is what people don't realize, and this is what Gavin Newsom completely ignored, the financing and funding through things like environmental and social governance and through the finance department of the United States Treasury restricting money to these projects, making the future permits and future drilling, which then depresses the energy markets and then creates higher prices. This is what happens with gas prices when you're not drilling as much. The futures market goes even higher and the gas prices rise today. So he was playing a lot of sleight of hand, a lot of tricks there. There is no doubt from day one, Joe Biden sent a signal to the marketplace and did real harm with things like shutting off the Keystone Pipeline. In fact, there's about 175 different actions this administration has taken as a stranglehold. And yes, you can still find a few examples and try to claim that Joe Biden is pro-fossil fuels, when in reality, it's a holdover from the unbelievable free access we had under the Trump administration. And the reality is, look at the pump, look at what's happening with our energy. And so Gavin Newsom was spinning hard, and that spin alley, by the way, in the debate.
It sure is, which is why this guy scares me, because he'll look straight in the camera and come up with this nonsense and be very convincing to anybody that's
very good.
He really is. I agree with you on that we should all be very concerned about this guy if he were to get in the race for the presidency. Just to show you how concerned we should be, I'm going to give you one more lie that he told about energy prices. Gas is close to hitting $7 a gallon in California. I do radio out there. This is what people complain all the time. I will tell you, the regulatory environment to not just produce gas, the special blends that they have. They have summer blend. They have a winter blend. All of that costs money. 80+ cents for taxes goes into this. Yet, this is his response of why prices are high in California.
These oil companies are ripping us off. $2.
They're only ripping off California, though?
$2.06. This mystery surcharge that they've been advancing for years and years.
But the average around the country's
California.
$4, and I saw anywhere between $6.
Mark, it's price gouging.
I mean, we saw the exact same thing. Justin Trudeau is going after the grocery store chains in Canada, claiming they're inflating food prices. This is a dire, these are the last refuge of these scoundrel politicians whose policy is collapsing energy, agriculture, transportation. They're then trying to blame the businesses to provide that. Now, keep in mind, I have no love lost for a lot of the big oil companies or anyone like that. ExxonMobil, these other companies, they're completely woke. They're in on the UN climate agenda. They're in on carbon taxes. But to sit there and blame high energy prices or blame high food prices on grocery stores and or energy companies is not going to cut it, when every single action both Gavin Newsom and Joe Biden has done has been to reduce supply, which then ration energy drives up prices. It's basic economics.
You want to know price gouging? I'll give you price gouging. Plumpjack, Gavin Newsom's winery, charges $300 a bottle for wine. I promise you, it is not worth $300 a bottle for that wine.
Plumpjack? I didn't know that. Plumpjack, that's right.
Yeah, Plumpjack. Yeah, I don't know where he got the name from, but I think he's price gouging anybody that's drinking that grape juice. Okay, Mark Morano, I appreciate you coming on. Climate Depot is your website. I urge everyone to check it out. I appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you, Grant. Appreciate it.
All right, absolutely. And real quick, Mark brought another story, but we didn't get a chance to get it. But check this out. Tear out 7. 41% of the French population favors restricting everyone to only 4 airplane flights in their entire life to fight against global warming. I don't even need to respond to that, folks. I really don't. All right, everyone knows the next medical crisis is just around the corner, whether it comes in the form of a pandemic or something much more mundane like a tick bite. You and your family need to be prepared. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. You know the Wellness Company. We have the great doctors on here, like Dr. Peter McCullough, all the time. He's a good friend of this program. The Wellness Company and their doctors are medical professionals that you can trust, and their new medical emergency kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy. So rest assured, knowing that you have emergency antibiotics, antivirals, and antiparasitics on hand to help keep you and your family safe. Here's what I want you to do. Go to twc.health/voice today and order. That is twc.health/voice. Use the promo code VOICE to save 10%. That's VOICE to save 10%. All right, what did the body language of the candidates at this week's GOP debate tell us? And why does DeSantis make those weird faces? Our body language expert is here. He's next with answers. Stick with me. Well, folks, as you know, on Fridays, it means it's time for our body language segment of the show. It's my favorite segment of the week, quite frankly. And we had a big week because we had the GOP debates, which was just lots of material for our body language experts. So let's bring him in right now. Host of the YouTube show, The Behavior Panel, and former military interrogator, our body language and behavior expert, Greg Hartley, is here. Greg, welcome back.
Thanks, Grant. Great to be here.
All right, I want to start with Ron DeSantis because I cannot figure out, I mean, in many respects I can, why this guy went from hero to zero with me. You know, I really like this guy, and I'm not liking him more and more as I watch him. I called him wimpy and wussy-like after the last debate. So let me play a clip. Maybe you can help me figure out why that's happening to me and so many others as he falls in the polls. This is him with his weird smiles.
I can, yeah.
And I vetoed wasteful spending when it came to my desk. And as your president, when they send me a bloating spending bill that's going to cause your prices to go up, I'm going to take out this veto pen and I'm going to send it right back to them.
Ilya, you mentioned me in the question. I just want to address.
All right. So, like, to me, it just comes
off. How long
as
do you
phony,
have,
Greg?
How long do you have? There are a handful
Lay it
of
on
things.
me, brother.
So there are a handful of things. First of all, resting face matters. How a person takes data matters. When I do our show, I sit stone-faced, and people think I have no emotion. I have emotion. I'm just listening to you. He doesn't. He has that weird smile in his resting face. Look at that head bobbing thing he does. Really, when you're in front of an audience, you have two real control mechanisms for communicating. Illustrators, moving my hands here, making my point, and then regulators where I'll stop. Can you see me? Where I'll stop like this. So what he's doing is poor job of illustrating, and he's using his head to do it, and he's blinking his eyes. That looks weak and out of control. He needs some coaching badly.
Did he always do this, or is it just on the debate stage? Because, you know, I watched him after the debate on with Sean Hannity, and I was like, man, he was better here in this interview than he was on the debate stage.
I think he's just poorly prepared for what he needs to do on stage. And if he could learn to use his hands more effectively, raise his hands up to where one of my partners, Mark Bowden, calls a truth plane, where you're up in here, not way down below the table, it sends a clearer message for the person. And do away with that goofy smile. Go to a flat face.
All right. It's a goofy smile, too.
I mean, I could go on, but yeah.
Let me play him using, this is cut 3, guys, where he's using these minimal hand gestures. Again, another one of him.
This is our time for choosing. We will send Joe Biden back to his basement, and we will reverse the decline of this country. I'm a blue-collar kid. I work minimum wage jobs to be able to make ends meet. I understand the importance of the American dream, and I know how that's slipped away from so many millions of Americans. As your president, I will not let you down. God bless you all.
All right, so again, he's still doing the head bob thing. You know, Greg, I remember when I was back on that other network and you would come on with me, I think we compared him to President Trump, and he was using the same President Trump moves. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. He mimicked President Trump, and he looked stronger when he did it. Look, President Trump has unique body language. He also has, I mean, Trump has his own thing, and he's got some things that you might consider goofy, but they're strong goofy versus weak goofy. So what he's doing here when he's not raising his hand to make a point, when he doesn't raise a finger to make a point, compare him to Vivek, who's all over the board with his hands. He makes a clearer message. And the strongest player on the stage that night in terms of good illustrators is Tim Scott, because he's always dead on. He's always where you can see him. His hands are up above the table. Look at that. I mean, that's powerful, strong body language.
All right, so I have a soundbite from Tim Scott. I guess that's it. Do we need to play it, I guess?
No, I think you can see what he's saying. See his body talking. His hands are driving his messages. He's saying, what else can I do? You can see it. He's sending a message. And that's where I think DeSantis falls short.
Truth is, he almost looks more sincere than DeSantis does. Scott, I can't hear what he's saying, but he almost looks like he's pleading with us.
He is. That's exactly what he's doing. You can't miss it. You can read body language. The best thing to do is turn off the sound and listen to these guys. I keep saying DeSantis will win or lose based on changing that kind of behavior. He might have the best possible message. It wouldn't matter.
Interesting. All right, you know who my guy is. My guy's Trump. So if DeSantis reaches out to you and tries to hire you, you tell him no. All right, you mentioned Vivek, okay? Vivek's an interesting guy because he's a little younger. He's all over the place. I'm not sure I think he's very well studied. I'm not sure he lives and breathes it like a guy like I do. But let me play him. This is cut 5, and then get your response.
The difference between me and them is I've actually read the 14th Amendment. What it says is that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the laws and jurisdiction thereof are citizens. So nobody believes that the kid of a Mexican diplomat in this country enjoys birthright citizenship. Not a judge or legal scholar in this country will disagree with me on that.
All right, your response.
See all that passion? See his fingers putting a finer point on it? See him raising that hand? He's controlling. He's speaking up here. It shows as passion. It shows as indignation. There's lower teeth exposed, show as anger. People can read that. They can see this is indignant at what's happening, as opposed to DeSantis, who may feel that way, but look at his face. It doesn't show that.
So you know what's interesting is I've been around a lot of CEOs. Even he's a young CEO. A lot of CEOs have that. They command a room, right? Well, especially CEOs of very big companies. Ron DeSantis is the CEO of a major state, which is very, very successful state at that.
Yep.
I don't understand why he's faltering and all these other guys seem to have it and he doesn't.
Well, and I think he does need some coaching to understand what he's missing. Let me give you one last great example of power in the room. I don't think you have the clip. I don't know if you do. At one point, Vivek is addressing Pence, and he's going on and on and on, and Pence raises one finger, and the room goes silent. That's power. That's power.
That's where he did it almost right there to somebody else, and the room went silent.
Work.
So that's yeah. All right, let me play. Speaking of Pence, let me play Pence and Haley interrupting Vivek over Ukraine. Cut 6.
Just because Putin's an evil dictator does not mean that Ukraine is good. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition parties.
A win for Russia is a win for China.
We're driving Russia.
A win for Russia is a win for China.
Excuse me, if you have a chance.
I forgot you like China. That's why you'll
have your chance in just a moment. Yeah. The hurling personal insults isn't helping.
Vivek, if you let Putin have Ukraine, that's a green light to China to take Taiwan. Peace comes through strength.
All right, you know what I'd like to ask you about there is the very end with Mike Pence. Another guy to me that comes off as phony, the way he talks. Does anybody really talk like that? And he's hammering with his hand here at the end.
Yeah, that's anger or intended anger because remember, we talked a long time ago about batoning and using one finger went out of style a long time ago. Watch Vivek go from using one finger to illustrate to putting the backs of his hands up to regulate and try to control the conversation. It doesn't work. I think the only reason Pence was able to do that one stop, by the way, has nothing to do with him and more to do with respect for seniority and that kind of thing. That's the reason I was saying there's power in it. But yeah, you can see a lot.
All right, last one. I know we're way over. My producer's going to kill me for this. But the Chris Christie, Donald Duck comment, which really fell flat. Fell fat. How about that for a slip? It really fell flat. Especially with the dopey face he makes at the end. Let's roll it and a quick comment on the end.
I know you're watching, okay? And you're not here tonight, not because of polls and not because of your indictments. You're not here tonight because you're afraid of being on the stage and defending your record. You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
Wow. This is a Jersey guy. Jersey guys talk with their hands. He doesn't. And the only time he uses his hands is when he's talking about Trump, which is interesting because nothing else he said had that kind of punctuation.
And the face at the end, is it just a mistake that he looks that dopey?
Well, I think if you watch him on data intake face, again, back to DeSantis, he does some weird head down thing. And people who know cameras, you don't put your forehead down to the camera. So interesting.
Yeah, sure enough. Greg Hartley, always a pleasure having you on. Thank you.
Pleasure.
We'll see you again real soon, I'm sure. Thank you. And I want everyone to remember Greg's website, readbodylanguage.com. That's readbodylanguage.com. His YouTube show is great, The Behavior Panel. He hasn't been kicked off YouTube. I have, but it's worth going and visiting and watching his show. All right, folks, coming up, another Biden was caught calling Joe the big guy. So how much more evidence do we need that Joe was sent some money? the guy who wears the dirty sweatsuits, the slob from Pennsylvania, Senator Fetterman, presided over the United States Senate yesterday. And lo and behold, look at him. He's wearing a suit and tie. Well, he must wear a suit and tie because yesterday the Senate finally had a little bit of common sense and overturned Chuck Schumer's relaxing of the dress code, saying, you know what? No, this is the United States Senate. There is decorum here. Have some respect. Put a tie on. You know, before I started this show, the CEO of Real America's Voice was so cool. I said, what's the dress code? He says, you can wear whatever you want. Just, you know, look halfway decent. I said, you know what? It's a primetime show. I'm putting a jacket and tie on because that's what you do for a primetime show. Fetterman's in the United States Senate. Now, I could lose a tie and have a jacket and a sport coat. I'd still look pretty nice, I think. But wearing his hoodie sweatsuits? Why would he wear those things? People said, oh, it's because of his mental illness and all of the health problems he has. Well, not according to him.
Why do you not wear a suit? What is your reason for dressing like wearing a hoodie, shorts, and dressing like
comfort, basically? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of hard to find suits, kind of this size too.
Excuse me, comfort? All your counterparts in the Senate were telling us that it was because you need to be comfortable because of all your health problems and your mental problems. And now you say it's just comfort? I get that it's comfortable to walk around in athletic shorts and a hoodie, but it's not for the Senate. And they can't make suits your size? Have you ever been to an NFL football game and watched these players walk in, or an NBA game? They are dressed to the nines. Their suits are probably, Lord knows how much. They make plenty of suits that you could look just fine in, Fetterman. And I love the reporter. Why do you want to look like and he stopped himself from saying a slob, but that is what he was about to say. I do have some good news for you. The woke loser Mark Milley, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, retired, finally. And out the door, he takes a shot at President Trump.
We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that it's America, and we're willing to die to protect it.
You know what's interesting about Mark Milley is that I do believe that was a shot at President Trump. The wannabe dictator, though, of course, is Joe Biden. He says he takes an oath to the Constitution. The man committed treason. Do you remember this when he called his Chinese counterpart, telling him that he would give him a tip-off if any attack was coming from the United States? That's treasonous. Just here, maybe you remember this, Mark Milley.
Did you or did you not tell him that if we were going to attack, you would let him know?
As part of that conversation, I said, General Lee, there's not going to be a war, there's not going to be an attack between great powers. And if there was, the tensions would build up. There'd be calls going back and forth from all kinds of senior officials. I said, hell, General Lee, I'll probably give you a call, but we're not going to attack you. Trust me, we're not going to attack you.
So what is going on there? You can't call your counterpart like that and then think about all the crazy woke policies this guy pushed, drag shows on military bases. Should I just play it just for fun since he's out the door? The white rage comment.
And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it. So what is it that caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that? I want to find that out. I want to maintain an open mind here, and I do want to analyze it. It's important that we understand that because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians, they come from the American people. So it is important that the leaders, now and in the future, do understand it.
Do you want to see white rage? I'm about ready to go totally rageful after hearing that again and again. You'd think my blood pressure would calm down after hearing that so many times. What would make people want to go to the Capitol, not assault it, not try to take over the government, but go there and voice their grievances to their elected officials are people like Mark Milley. He's gone now, so we don't have to worry about him for a while. All right, folks, coming up next, Democrat Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley says the border is closed And do you believe CNN actually challenged her on it? We'll have it for you.
Here are some of the headlines we are featuring today from your favorite news outlets at offthepress.com. The corporate media effectively imposed a blackout on coverage of the impeachment inquiry into corruption by President Biden and his family, a stark contrast to the wall-to-wall coverage the media gave to the impeachments of former President Trump. GOP donors desperate for a 2024 alternative to Trump are converging on Virginia in an effort to draft popular Governor Glenn Youngkin to make a bid for the White House. It's funny how things come full circle. Lawyers for the Delaware computer repair shop that serviced Hunter Biden's infamous laptop have subpoenaed the FBI to return the laptop to the shop's owner, who is engaged in a defamation lawsuit against CNN, Politico, and Biden. And it turns out Melania Trump is a pretty fair deal maker in her own right. The former First Lady quietly renegotiated her prenup with Donald Trump as her husband is fighting off court challenges while running for a second term. For stories like these and more updates all day long from your favorite news outlets, go to offthepress.com.
Well, folks, we know the border is wide open. Democrats are claiming it's not. CNN backed us up. Watch this.
Our border is secure, and we're in the midst of a humanitarian crisis, and we have to fix a broken system.
Wait,
and
you think it is secure? You think the border is secure, or it is not secure?
I believe that we are in the midst of a humanitarian crisis.
But if you have millions of undocumented migrants coming